It's a pleasure to have you here. I've seen you and rubbed shoulders with you a lot in the field, and it's kind of an honor for me to be able to interview you now.
Oh, make me feel good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
That's
welcome.
comforting to hear that.
Yeah, you have a lot of photos here, and you said to me early on, Amy, I don't have a favorite. But I'm wondering if you have maybe even a favorite type of photograph you do. Are you drawn more to the sports, the hard news, the public figures?
I think initially I just loved chasing the news, and that meant chasing the scanner. So you're chasing, police calls, ambulance calls, even Coast Guard calls.
Yeah.
So, they had scanners at the Star. And even before that, when I was a kid, there was a gentleman in our neighborhood who had a scanner. So as kids on our bikes, we would go out and chase the scanner calls if it was in, say 10 or 20 block radius.
Wow. Well, what do you think it was about the scanner and the calls? And then why did you choose to document it with a camera?
Well, don't forget now, I joined St. Clair College in the journalism program, so I transferred over there from the University of Windsor, and I just fell in love with it. Once the camera hit my hand, I used to take photos at home, of course, just family shots, but once the, it must have been just the excitement. I learned how to use the camera initially. It is a little, well, back then it was mechanical. So, and then posing of photos, that just all kind of fell naturally.
How many do you think you took over your career?
We were talking earlier, it's just an estimate. Some years I had 500 bylines in the Star. So we estimate about 15,000. Bylines now. So that's many more photos, but that's what you can actually go back and count.
Those are the actual published photos.
Correct, yeah. And so many times you go to a scene or you go to an event. We were looking at photos of the old Red Wings player playing. You might take 10 or 12 or 15 photos that you could, what we call back in the day, clip the negative. It was good, solid negative. You'd print up maybe half of those ones, but only one would get used in the paper. But all those other ones are stuffed back in the envelopes.
I'm also wondering, for me, sometimes with video, you're trying to pick the best video, and there's some that doesn't make it to air. Is it the same for photographs? Are there some that you think, I wish that I could just choose more than one?
Yeah, I'll give you a little secret here. There was one I took of Bob Probert, the famous hockey player, and he had issues, substance issues and with the legal system. But he's a super nice guy. Got to meet Bob a couple times. When he was playing as a Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound at Windsor Arena against the Spitfires. So they said, Nick, go over and cover the Spitfire game. By the way, there's a local kid. He's going to be pretty good, and ended up being pretty good. And he's playing on the other team. Oh. So I had to go there and get just what we call a file photo. Well, that file photo never got used. It got pushed off to the side. So I have that. So I'm going to show that at the exhibit.
How did you choose out of your 15,000 and plus photos what you were going to put in the exhibit?
It was a chore. It was a real chore. I had to go back. Most of my stuff, is stored away in boxes and totes. And like maybe every year or two, you'd clean out your locker and you put all the extra photos and some, some of the clippings, the tear sheets into a box, and you just file it away. So going back over all those, dusting off all those old, photos and stuff. I don't have everything in my collection. I never will. But that's what it was, just going through all that. It took months. But as far as selecting, I think the award winners would surface first, right? You go through those, and I think I would have maybe 70, 80% of all my award winners, which is nice to have. So that's a good base, and then you just go on from there.
What type of journey, maybe a better way of asking you this question is, you brought photos with you, and I think that's going to help illustrate the type of journey this is going to take people through. Can you explain some of the photos that you had there? Keep in mind we're on radio, although a bit of video, what you brought with you.
Well, I would say many of them are spot news. Spot news meaning I was there when it happened, and so that's kind of like the foundation of the exhibit. But other things, too, that kind of surfaced, Amy, over the years, going through all the past months, all the entertainers I took photos of, all the politicians. When the Queen was here in 1984, of course, I was there.
It's right here.
There it is right there, and I'm not sure what camera we're on, but I'll use that one over there. So that's one of the photos. So although that photo did not make the top 50, but it will be there, something like that at the exhibit. Of course, all the old hockey shots, go back to the days when they weren't even wearing helmets. So it has been a journey.
Yeah, it's such an amazing way to document Windsor history. Even the photo right there. Can you explain what's happening in that?
That was a rescue, 1981, I believe, in November. And you hear the scanner call it. There was people trapped inside a burning home. So you go there and you show up. And I remember the mom screaming, my son is inside or something like that, that there's, somebody, one of her family members inside. And, you just record, you kind of stay out of the way. That's number one thing, had great respect for all the emergency services personnel. They put their lives on the line to save lives. And I saw it. And that's a good example of that right there,
Yeah,
that
there's
photo.
a ladder and they're bringing down a gentleman from the top window there.
That's actually, I think, a 10 or a 12-year-old boy, and he's coming down the ladder unconscious, but he survived. He came to. He got medical attention. He came through, and it's life being saved right there.
It's also an example of some of the situations that journalists were put in when we're in the field. What stands out to you looking back?
Yeah, I said yesterday I was being interviewed, and I said, you know what? You have to put that off to the side. So once your shift is over, you don't kind of let it kind of linger. I have family. Like I mentioned, a beautiful wife, and I have four children. So you have your life at home to that always came first, right? Your life at home. And it did affect you, though. It did affect you. And some of the events we covered are very tragic. And you carry those with you over the years. You don't, I'm not saying you have PTSD, but you do remember.
Yeah. I'm also wondering how this has helped you with that. When you go through all these photos, has it been healing to sort of see things as it was, or does it resurface those days again?
I don't know how many of the assignments I relived. You go through one photo, leave you to another and to another. And you go through them, and, it took me months because of that. You have to sort through all that. But as far as reliving a tragic event, no, I don't think so. Because like I learned early, you put that off to the side, and then you just move on to the next job. Don't forget, I would have 5, 6, 7, 8 jobs in a day. When in the busier times at the Windsor Star. So you just moved on to the next job.
Yeah. Was there ever a photo that got away from you?
Oh yeah. Just the one that I remember. It was an MMA match. It must have been downtown. I'm thinking at Caesars, and it was just an amazing because those athletes are just so strong and powerful. And there's just one shot I missed there just by a fraction of an inch, and it would have been an amazing photo because you don't believe how much impact. And some of the cameras we use today, you can shoot at higher shutter speeds, so you can capture that split second, that moment. And so that's the only one I really regret over all these years. So, and don't forget, that's not too bad,
No, and I'm thinking you took more than 15,000 photos, but you'll still remember the one that got away.
You do. But what the heck? I've got a few good ones in there
Whatever,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm only people like me would ever ask a question like that.
No, I don't mind that. Yeah.
The newspapers aren't what they used to be. As you mentioned, technology has changed. You and I were talking earlier. You went from being a photographer to needing to take video to needing to probably write some of this stuff down when you came back. The Windsor Star doesn't publish as much as it used to at one time. I'm wondering what your take is on where the industry is going.
Yeah, well, it's certainly in a change. But as far as in the future, where it's going to, the thing is, newspapers survive by the ad revenues and by the ads that are in the paper. So I remember years ago, we used to have something called the slot pages. And those pages were kind of left over. Possibly they didn't fill that space for the ads. So they come back to the photo department and they say, okay, Nick, you have a couple more photos from that event that you covered, or that accident, or that fire. So that would fill up what they call the slot pages. So I mean, it's been kind of like a downward. It's been on a decline for my whole career, really. The newspaper industry. It's sad.
It is.
You know what though? Looking back over those great early years where I worked, the Windsor Star was just chocked full of information, and I'm kind of reliving that now. I'm going back looking at some of those papers, 120 pages or more on a Saturday in a Saturday newspaper, the Windsor Star, just chocked full of information. It was just an amazing time.
Yeah, and you and I were talking a bit before, but I am envious of photographers like yourself because you have documented your career in a way that, radio, we can't do that. When we go off the air today, there's nothing that will bring me back to remember that we even had this conversation.
I was talking with Mike about that earlier. Yeah, how are you going to, I've been blessed. And this is, something that I got good at early in life, and it carried me through my career, and I can look back at it now, and I want to share this.
Yeah. Well, we've been blessed as a community. I mean, you have captured our history in a way and through the eyes in a way that is unprecedented. And I think all these awards that you've received is one accolade. But I think just being able to go through this, just seeing some of you, Chen from our newsroom interviewed you yesterday, and looking through some of his photos he took of your photos. I was saying one was a heart surgery, I think it was.
It was brain surgery.
Brain surgery?
Yes, brain surgery.
That's how well I looked at that.
That was quite interesting. We put that... We're going to have a wall there in the Chimczuk Museum, at least the gallery that I'm using. And, you have to kind of take a little bit of a warning to go around the corner. And that was one that they chose to put behind. It's a sensitive topic, right, when you have surgery. So this was a surgery where the person was alive during brain surgery. And they would probe the different areas. So we had to scrub. I remember that day. It was at Hotel du Grace Hospital. We had to scrub down. I had scrubbed down all my camera gear, whatever I brought into the operating room, and stay way back. Of course, I have great respect also for the medical community. So yeah, you just listen to what what the guidelines are, and you do the best you can. It is kind of a cool shot.
It's a very cool shot. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming in this morning. I appreciate this.
It's our pleasure, my pleasure.